Okay, well, it looks like I'm back. I hope you guys find me. Okay, well, I'm going to continue on my thought. What I was saying is that power in the painting comes from a few strong shapes rather than many shapes. Okay, it's a matter of intensity. You can think of it almost as if you're saying something. If I have something to say, and boom, I say it with a strong voice, it's going to make an impression. But, I have something to say. Oh, did you see the weather? And boom, and then, oh yeah, about that thing I was going to say. Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Oh, and then how is your family, by the way? Every time we interrupt that, the power of that, some of that power is lost. Okay, so a shape is the same way. So I'm going to get to work here. And from what I see and can tell, the light in here is coming in like this. And I get that from this right here. It's a little bit confusing because it looks like the highlight is here, which says the light is this way. But this shadow says the light is coming in from that way. Sometimes light's coming in from two different directions. We can set up lighting like that for paintings, but generally speaking, and until you master it, I really recommend just paint single light source paintings. Okay, they're going to be the most powerful. They're going to be the most powerful. So if we've got the light coming in that direction, then let's just adjust a couple of things. Our light dark pattern here, if we may. So let's take this value. All right, well, it looks like one or two of you found me again. My computer said I was just going on too long and it had enough. That wasn't very nice, I know. So if I can find a dark warm, try to keep the white out of it. Let's see, is that going to be dark enough? Is that going to be dark? No, let's go ahead and darken it. Shadow is our strength in our paintings comes from the shadow. Right? So make sure those shadows are nice and solid. Okay, so if the apple shadow was there, then we're going down to that. It's like a green yellow tablecloth. I'll keep that value about the same. I want to stretch that. So that's the cast shadow. And then again, it would be similar from there. Cool. Let's see, and even though that's a white versus a red, at least where the red and the white meet, let's keep that at the same, try to keep it at about the same value. This is casting a shadow, yeah, right there. And at least for our, yeah. Okay, so that's a cast shadow. So I'll make that kind of a straight line. But the light's coming this way. So that shadow. All right, that would put the shadow, the form underneath that lid. There would be a shadow. Cast shadow. From that, there'd be a cast shadow here, and then our form shadow would be like that. Okay, and hopefully you can see that visually it catches you, right? And a lot of that comes from that singular value shape being a little bit bigger, and then that dark shape also makes that light shape much clearer. If everything's really light in a painting, it doesn't carry or read. It being light on light doesn't read. Pardon me for just a second. I need to check on something here. I need to make sure that the other stream is not still going live. Sometimes one thing says you're not streaming anymore, but the platform thinks you are. Yeah, just as I thought. So it looks like we got 2 live going here. So let me see. So this one. Sorry guys, give me just a second. More technical difficulties. Alright, so I need to find out how I can get in and end that stream. Okay, so somebody's still with me. Sorry about that. I think somebody was on and we lost them. Okay, so we ended that first live stream because it booted me out. All right, Tom found us. Good, good, good. Sorry, my computer booted me out of the last one, but YouTube didn't end it. So we're back here, and what we were doing is I was making some clean shadow shapes from a singular light source at this point. And again, if I just think of everything as form, I can easily figure out my light shadow pattern. Now, one thing that can really help with the light shadow pattern is these negative shapes. And I'd like to put another negative shape in here. So I'm going to grab the light in front of the shadow on the table. I'm going to make it slightly lighter and grayer, not too much. And then give a good negative shape right here. And what that'll do is it kind of solidifies and locks things in, gives some stability to the thing. So I hope that makes sense and you can see that. And then from there, to kind of soften things up, what we could do is the background gray. And maybe a slightly light there. Let's see if we can find it a little bit darker. It's too dark. How about right in here? Yeah. So we could use this to help us transition between our light and our shadow. And by using a color that's in the background, that literally you're telling the viewer this goes back, then as our light turns into shadow by using a color or influencing it with that color, it makes it look like it's literally going back in space towards that background. All right, then what I'm going to do here is just kind of soften edges and stuff. Because, again, air isn't thick and chunky. Well, at least you hope it's not, right? The air we prefer to breathe is not thick, chunky air. But see how that, what that does is it softens things up. So we just have a sphere up here. And again, if I just come up here and soften, right, the cast shadow, it's not going to be so soft, but here it'll turn around a bit. Hard edge, oops, and then a soft edge where the form turns, and if it turns under here, and then what that's going to do is then we can really see our color and our light on our teapot. Okay, and then if I was a little cleaner, now it's not that some green can't influence that apple, right? But that just simply doesn't look like apple anymore. So if we're just a little more solid and let some of these pieces of paint be quote unquote a little bigger, in other words, it's like it's a bigger, flatter piece of paint, it carries stronger, right? And again, as I give the viewer less shapes to decipher, the clearer things get. Now I'm just going to put this down right here. And then let's go in and let's blanch that out a little bit. So the top plane is getting a little bit more. Right, actually loses some colors, goes a little lighter. I gotta soften this edge up before it does me in. Before it does me in. And then a good clean highlight always helps. Now it's not that we couldn't put some yellow in here too. You most certainly can, but what happens when you do that is that red spot gets broken up, right? And so what I would do then is I would make it as, put it near the highlight so that it's part of the red, a run of the red where it almost climaxes with the yellow, right? And then if we stepped off the red a little more harshly, a lot of this is just measure. When I say harshly, right? So I could go slightly darker there if I wanted, if I really wanted that yellow to read. So it's up to you. But again, the more I add to this, the weaker the whole thing gets. Okay? And then the more competition there is, the weaker the thing gets. And what I mean by that is, if we come down here, And yeah, this is a grade off yellow, but it's a yellow orange, and that's pretty powerful. So what if we grade it off a little bit more and just took it slightly cool? And I'd like to also darken it a little bit. You feel how your eye can let go of that more easily now? And how what it really does is it makes the apple more powerful. Right? So we could, it looks like color, but it's a pretty grayed off color. And then with the background, if we push that same idea with the background, okay, can you see how now our focus is so cleanly on the objects? So what I've done here more than anything was I took things out. And then now, you know, all that energy and everything on the white pot is in there and really making some noise. But if the strokes in the background are as energetic as the foreground, and here I'm talking aesthetic foreground and background, and all that means is you want them to look here and you don't want them to look here. Aesthetic foreground is I want them looking here. Aesthetic background is I don't want them looking here. Now the difference between the aesthetic foreground and background is it can happen anywhere. Like in our foreground, we can have aesthetic foreground and background, right? Because in our foreground, we might want you to look here, but not here. In our middle ground, we can have aesthetic foreground and aesthetic background. Because in the middle ground, I want you looking here and not here. So do you see that? Linguistically, it sounds funny, but it's really a pretty simple idea. So I hope that gives you some ideas to carry forth. Maybe gray the table and the background down a little bit. And then by flattening out a little bit of that color and stuff, we could make this a bit stronger. Okay, so let me know if that helps or if you have any questions. And let's go on. So if she didn't find us, we will find her. Send that to her. Oh, you did find us. Good, 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 good. Sorry that's over 2 videos, but sometimes it happens that way. You are very welcome. Or if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in. Janny, if you're here, I'm going to work on Tom's beach one now for a few minutes and talk about that. And then I wanted to finish on your apple. And the reason why I wanted to finish on that apple is it's my intention that I'm going to work on mine this afternoon in the studio. We'll see how far my intention gets us today. Okay, so we've got 2 more. And let's see where Tom is. Let's see where Tom is. Okay, well, it looks like this is coming along nicely. Coming along nicely. Let me just say a couple of things that kind of stick out to me. And again, not knowing where you are, so you may already been fixed these or what. I don't like that beach. to me, it's not stable. You know, even if this is literally what the ground is doing, I've got to find some way to stabilize that. And, you know, because the other thing is by having this action in there, what that does is that brings that forward. It makes it seem more aesthetically forward, right? And we don't want that forward, right? Like, I'm not really crazy about that value right there. I mean, I'm not crazy about that value because I could almost swear that it looks exactly the same as that. Right? And this is a long walk in the sand. You got to find a pathway down to the sand, and it's soft and it's hard, and then it starts hardening up as the things. And then if we're walking all the way out there, there's the tide and we're going, and then the spray of the ocean is coming up, so there's so much atmosphere. So Tom and I are good friends, so we can do this, but no. What? You got this set up so beautifully. So don't go being and taking things like this and putting them way the hell back there. Because it can't exist in that space. Not like that. You're at the ocean, waves are crashing, the wind is blowing. There's way too much atmosphere for that to be that clear. Okay? And maybe this too. What happens if you guys were watching last night, the clarity of these colors where it looks like they have bright colors in the sky comes from graying the heck out of all of this. But these colors that we see in the sky back there, again, how much atmosphere are we looking through? So just how bright could it possibly be? Okay, so with those things in mind, let me do a few things here. And again, that idea of cleaning some of this up a little bit. And this isn't an easy problem. Why? Well, because it's dog fur. And if you're trying to draw fur first, you can get yourself in trouble. What I want is something strong and flat and forward, and strong enough so I can put something weak back there. Right? Strong enough so that that is a fall off. Okay, and let's see. Got a little zealous of my arrows here. So anyway, what I'd like to see is you've got to, oops, that's the background, not the foreground. And since that is against that warm sand, I'm going to throw just a touch of cool over there. And that'll help it pop even more. And again, where's this light coming from? It's coming from kind of behind him and on top because this is in shadow. So then that means those paws. Right? Do you see the strength coming? It's not taking much, is it? And all I'm doing is kind of making some flat paint. Right? Where's a big flat spot that's going to carry? Now, you're absolutely right. long, uh-oh, uh-oh, sorry. We should have gave Tom some props first. So I know some good things are happening, but sometimes to get better, we got to destroy some of those good things. And so what we're talking about now is kind of where things get difficult is, like I said, it's in the measure, but it's not even really in the measure. But it's in the relationships of the measure, right? How much big and flat to white to soft edges for fur to this to that. And the thing is well, what is it going to take to get us there? Room. And for me, that gets me there. And then the other thing that would get me there where's that nose go really dark at? And is there some really dark right there? And then even that tongue, watch what happens when I take all of these brush strokes here. So all I'm going to do is take all of those brush strokes, right? I see 1, 2, 3, 4 clear spots and make it into a single shape. All right, and then we could say maybe some of it's in shadow, but again, make that a big single shape. Do you see how much stronger that carries? Okay, so up about where we want to focus, let's make sure it carries enough. And then I would probably take some of that dark, warm black and make sure to try to get an eye in here that we can see and that can take a highlight. And this may be a little bit early, but again, what I'm doing is I'm assigning roles. And this is the role of the black, of the dark. And we could make that a little bit darker than even the fur. And then that light dark there. Now remember, we've got to save some room for the highlight. So we probably don't want this big flat white being completely white. It's still going to have to come down a little bit. But no matter where it comes down to, what you're going to do is a little darker, a little grayer, then that's just going to be weaker. And again, part of what's happening here is this white got this color and this color in it. And so it's not distinguishing itself. We have the same color, the same color, the same color. And yeah, you got your 3 values right, but if between those warms we can shift this to cool, I think you can get more power out of it. Okay. And then what? So if with those white paws on the beach, what that's going to allow us to do again, you always got to test it out. Right? Again, if this is about Ziggy, now that could stand out. And if that's too, I could make all of this bigger. And what am I doing here? I'm just making the spot that you focus on bigger. It was the white of the nose, it was the black of the nose, it was the color of the tongue, it was the dark of the lip on the bottom lip, it was the white of the paws, and now it's the color of the sand. Okay, right? So bang, we go there. But if the little's good, should we just do the whole thing like? No. Because look, as this gets bigger, gets flatter, gets more powerful, pretty soon that white doesn't do what it used to do. So probably what I would do is I would just get a bit of it there like that. And then immediately we can go a bit darker, richer. Up front. And now what I need to do is I just need that to just go away. Some soft edges. Okay. And so again, there's more of Ziggy, and we pause at Ziggy longer. Without it, it feels a little bit more like a poke. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So let's see, Susan. Sometimes I feel like I'm just getting more confused. Yeah, and that's when you're having clarity, we're talking about usually a single issue. And then where the confusion comes back in is where all these issues clash into one another. Well, the aesthetic foreground and the picture plane foreground and the value and the color, but this is hair, and you said hair was like that, but this is in that. And that's what I mean is you've always just have to look at the canvas, and it's almost like the journey of being an artist is tuning your nervous system, right? Because even if I look at that, I can feel something's off before I know what it is, right? Or I can feel things are working. And then as I spend a little time and get in there, oh, okay. So where do we want to be looking? Where do we want to be looking? Where do we... It's almost like a death by 1,000 cuts. You know, it's not one thing, but it's these slight errors and decisions over, 150 brush marks, over 1,500 brush marks, over 3,500 brush marks. So, yeah, well, you said to head west. Well, yeah, you're heading west, but you're heading a bit northerly. And we need to go west, southwest, and at the very end turn a little north. Okay, so you're making progress, and don't worry about feeling a little confused. All right, so Tom, I hope that helped out, gave you some ideas there. And then again, how do we get more clarity in the background? Well, for me, and again, I'm not beating up on Tom at all. Tom is a fantastic painter, but he's one of those that ask me to push him a bit and, let him know. To me, this value and this is feeling very much the same. And it's not that repetition of value can't make something strong, but we want to go back in space, and there's ways to make the same value not seem the same. So, for instance, if we look back there, and again, it seems like it's just a dot, but there's white and there's black. And it doesn't take but a single spot of that white and black to suck all the atmosphere out of here and there. So I know it's brutal. I know, it's tough. All right, so we don't want to be as dark and heavy as the dog because the dog is forward. The dog is forward. So I'm trying to kind of find a warm green. And that's not it. That's not it. Okay, so down here. So I just have to make sure that this dark does not seem like it's coming in front of or equal to the dogs. Okay, one way I can do that is just by keeping the soft edges, right, where these things turn, really soft. Oh, right on, right on. All right, so Tom's on board with us here. Good, 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 good. And then with each one of these, if I can just release the slightest little bit in that shadow. Right, so that the shadow behind the dog's head might be that, right? Whereas in front, it's that. See that it's subtle, but it matters. And then what would be the light for this? Again, I don't think we want a bright green, but maybe like an okay, here we go. Somewhere in here I think feels a little bit better. It is an upright, so we're going to keep it relatively. Doesn't need to be as, it needs to read as a dark against the beach, against the sand. So that will be our limit there. Okay, and again, those could go back size and edges. Okay, so you see as I get a little cleaner on each of those colors, it seemingly gets brighter, right? And I may, with that yellow at the beach, that may have been way, way too much right there. But what I was trying to say is, how can we step off of that white paw so that white's not a poke in the eye to us, but rather like a nice massage, like, oh, man, that was pleasant. Rather than boom, ow. Okay, and part of that is just not making it so sharp or making it larger, not necessarily duller, but not like the end of a pen, but just a little, maybe a basketball or something. And that's what those things will do. Okay, I think we're going to leave that right there because I've got one more I'd like to go to. Tom, did you have any questions or anything on that before we move on? Well, we're waiting. There's about a 45-second delay, so we'll wait just a second for him on that. And while we are, I'll see what happens when we adjust. What are we adjusting? That's in the... There we go. Adjusting this. So let's take that white down to maybe there. Ah. White, and then that black. Well, let's just... So then the shadow of that white, we drop it to there. And especially back towards this horizon. Okay, so that blue, you see that blue, it's way too colorful for back there. Excellent. All right, Tom. Excellent. So here I'm going to try to find this. So that's probably the back of the ocean, somewhere like that. Can you feel how that just gives so much room? And then what does that mean for those mountains back there? Well, maybe something like that. Maybe. I mean, not all. But just to show you, we want to send that all back. And now that blue sky we talked about. And it looks great. What if we gray that off even more? Whoa, where did that come from? Somebody snuck back over there. Yeah, maybe something like that. And then even that white back there. Does that feel a little more distant there to you, bud? All right. Well, it does to me. So let's take one more look at before and after. So before, there we go, and then we cleaned up the nose and the beach, right? Get you up here close. And then we made more definite light dark on the greenery on the beach and walked it off. And then we cleaned up the white in the ocean and the sky and all that and grayed off that horizon. Okay. All right, so let's look at one more. All right, Tom. So I know he's off to the races right now working on this. So go get him, bud. Go get him. And let's finish the day with the apple. The day. We're just finishing the first show of the day. There's 3 more shows. 3 more shows. Okay, so when I looked at this, and I saw it, one of the things that I noticed or that stuck out to me, and again, this isn't easy. It takes some time to do it. Like, this is basically exactly what I was just saying we might need to do with the dog's paws, is spread out some of this love. But once you start doing that, it's not so easy, because we've got to keep this very soft edge. We generally don't want a hard edge at the end of the table, right? So that means that we need that transition to just be breathless, to basically be invisible. And why? I mean, why? Because, well, it's the back of the table. It sets us up. It orients us. I mean, I know when I started, I needed to have that in. But the fact is, visually, all this line does is come in here and steal. 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 It's stealing attention from where we really want it. Okay? So that one thing right there, if you'll just eliminate this back line, now it's going to, trying to eliminate that back line is going to give you all kinds of trouble. Because, what? Huh? And it's going to give you all kinds of trouble until your only objective is to make it disappear. Right? Then when that's your objective, it's easy for you to do. For instance, just take, well, let's take this big bright right there. How can I separate this here? I mean, join this to this. Why don't I just do this? Man. Okay, let's do that again. Let's do that again. I need to find... Let's find that one more time. And then what I want to do is I just want to start bringing it towards that yellow, so that the back of my table might end up more like this. And then that's close enough, oops, close enough that then I can soften the edges to where there's nothing there. Okay, and so when you do that, what that's going to do is it's going to allow your apple to be much stronger. And I see a couple of things. It seems to me like there's a little confusion here. And some of it I know may just be working with paint, but what I mean, as you work, things happen. But it looks to me like you've opened up right there, and that's not really the place to open up. So I'd like to close that down. I would like to flatten this up a little bit, and maybe even flatten this up a little bit, and definitely flatten the shadow out a bit. And those things, what those things are going to do, and then when we go out, we want to go out here, in and out. And why do we want to go out there? We want to go out there because where the openings is going to be, as the light turns around and begins to turn into shadow, and there's shadow under here, and it comes up and begins to let go, well, that opening is going to occur between those places. Okay. So what would happen? Let's see. So let's cast in a shadow. See, why did this that dark? There we go. There we go. So you see now that just glides right into those greens, which is a good thing, and I'd like. Put that over like that. And then what I would do is, so if I lighten that a bit and I grayed it off and I cooled it off, would that make very good air? I don't know. That seems a little strong. That still seems a little strong, doesn't it? All right, so maybe we've got to warm that up a bit. So just like we separated the grays last week, what we're doing now is I'm bringing those grays closer together. Bringing them closer together because the idea is for this to go away, not for you to look at it. And part of it's this hard edge that we've got here. Wow, that is red. That's a red gray, believe it or not. But anyway, if we needed that to be there, let's just test this out. Can we soften these edges and that work? It's amazing what a hard edge does. A hard edge gives definition, right? It's making that thing see blue. But I'm going to bet as we get that red above it, we're going to be okay. I'm going to bet we're going to be okay. And then see, by finding that, that tells me what to put here. Because I need it to be that. So that I can get in and out of this thing. So basically what I'm saying is the tabletop there and the background there and all of that, it kind of lost its independence. And now it's just directly in service to. All right, so let's make sure we got a hard edge there. And look how far I can gray this down, and there's still plenty of clarity in here. Right, and that yellow is so strong, so I would take that yellow, because that yellow is so strong that if we're looking in there, we won't be looking at those green leaves. And if that background's got hardly any color at all because those green leaves are so weak, we're hardly going to look at that. So with the idea that those green leaves are so weak, we might have to be careful how strong we make our apple. Right, again, this big flatness is what's going to give this the strength and help it carry. To the viewer's eye. Okay, and I can hear you guys. Jason, you just told us the blanched color air. Well, that's true. That's true, but we don't want to break up that apple. Now, let me ask you something. Is that apple the first thing you go to when you see this? I'm feeling some battle here. I'm feeling some battle. So, instead of playing the apple up, why don't we play some other things down? Yellow is so powerful. And look how light that is too. Something like that feel better up here. And when we do that, can we see the clarity of the green just come up? Okay. And then what if we got rid of even that blue in the background? I know I told you guys to go blue. I just meant neutralize it a little bit, but I'm going warm here. Just kind of happens. So let's see what happens. What would be the difference if... What would be the difference? How would it be different? All right, are you guys... Is this helping you guys? I hope I'm just not going on and on. If I am, so be it, but I'm hoping you guys are picking this up and able to see it. And again, it doesn't do to see it just once. You kind of have to see it and see it and see it. And just get it into your nervous system. So much of this for some of you guys who have been painting for so long is really a lot more about taking things out than putting things in. Right, you can see the difference between where I was working and then the stop that was off the screen. How much kind of chroma there is there. So it's amazing that even within the grays, you can have strong chroma, right? And you don't think it's chroma because it's sitting next to, you know, some other strong colors on your palette. But it doesn't matter what it looks like sitting on your palette. What it matters is what is it doing to what you're trying to make shine. Now, some of that spilling on the table and stuff, what we're going to do is, yeah, it's red, but go ahead and darken it up. Sometimes you can richen it up or gray it off, but get a bit darker because again, it's a reflection and you want it to kind of sit in there, and then with the edges too. Do you see the difference between, you know, that there, that little reflection, and the yellow on the tape, right? Those hard edges and stuff. And it's hard because it looks cool. And yeah, that's the right paint configuration. But what happens is the color you used is too strong for this scenario. Because it's really what's happening is it's fighting with that apple right now. Boom, boom. Okay, so I hope that helps you out. I think we're going to leave things right here. I'm going to try to work on my apple today in the studio series, if that works out. So you're welcome to check in on that and see how that goes. And we'll see. So we'll keep that right at about an hour. Sorry about the technical difficulties today, but that's part of my end of the bargain on going live 3 times a day, 5 days a week. You guys can help me. Work out all these technical problems. So I wanted to put myself under the gun to cause all kinds of problems so we could solve all kinds of problems. So while I'm doing that with technology, you guys can do it with your paintings. All right. So thank you everybody so much. We'll be back today at 1 and tonight at 8 on YouTube, and Sketch Club is tonight at 6:55 on Facebook, Meyer Studio. Talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.